This is a Fox News alert. Any moment, President Obama is supposed to sit down with Russian President Vladimir Putin for their first face-to-face meeting in nearly a year, and we're going to get tape of that shortly. This is Putin's first trip to America since his country seized control of Crimea in Ukraine. Both he and Obama delivered speeches today before the UN General Assembly, offering sharply different views on resolving the crisis in Syria. Putin did an interview that aired yesterday on 60 Minutes. He was asked for his thoughts on Obama's leadership, but he didn't take the bait.
What do you think of President Obama? What's your evaluation of him?
I don't think I'm entitled to give any views regarding the president. That's up to the American people.
Do you think his activities in foreign affairs reflect a weakness?
I don't think so at all.
And the White House, however, is pointing out Russia's leadership weaknesses.
Russia, for years, has treated Syria as essentially a client state. The reaction that we're seeing from the Russians now is actually responding from weakness. They're concerned about the investment there. They're concerned about the losing influence in the government.
All right, Danny, during that shot, we were talking a little bit about it, but Vladimir Putin made his case. He stated his case, didn't he?
From an interview standpoint, I thought that Vladimir Putin, for his own interests, had a very good interview with 60 Minutes. I thought he was calm. He answered the questions. He deflected when he needed to. He said, that's for the American people to decide. I'm not going to comment on your president. And then he would do a little sharp elbow to President Obama. So I thought he had a good interview for himself. I think what Josh Earnest said this morning, yes, there is weakness. And I think there's what Putin needs to do is shore up some support back home. One of the ways he can do that is by saying, look, I am making Russia more respected in the world because I'm the only one that's coming up with a solution to deal with ISIS. And therefore, I'm going to the United Nations. I haven't been there in a decade. I'm going to give a speech, and I'm showing that Russia is the one that everyone's looking to solve a problem that for 4 years the Americans could not solve.
KG, Vladimir Putin kind of took credit for the pushback of ISIS that we've seen recently. You kind of believed him, though. Although I will tell you, in my opinion, I think Charlie Rose gave him a soft interview.
Well, listen, it doesn't matter what kind of interview Charlie Rose intended to give him because Putin owned the day. He was commanding. He showed that he was a fearless leader. He was in control of the subject matter, the conversation, and the flow. He was very well prepared, and he was on point. So I agree with Dana. From a communication standpoint, he delivered the day for Russia. What you saw is somebody who's saying, I will step in to the leadership vacuum that has been created and the mess, essentially, that the United States, has made and try to right the ship in the Middle East. Is
that a fair assessment? Do you like the assessment? Do you like that Vladimir Putin basically explained why he was helping out Syria, why he was helping out Bashar al-Assad? He took credit for a lot of the ISIS gains that have been made. You okay with that?
Let me start with the president's speech, President Obama's speech, if I may, Eric. I think that the president made a beautiful speech, a gorgeous speech, an elegant speech. And if it were his acceptance speech for the Nobel Peace Prize, it would have been terrific. But it was absolutely shorn of specifics. It avoided what to do about Syria. He reluctantly held his nose and says we'll cooperate with Iran and Russia where it comes to Syria. I thought Putin absolutely owned the day. He gave specifics. He identified the mutual enemy, whose side the free world, so the civilized world, is on. ISIS is the enemy. Let's get together. You have your differences, of course, with the government of Bashar Assad, but it was Putin all the way. We teamed up with the Soviet Union to defeat the Nazis. We can team up with Russia to defeat ISIS.
And Tom, Putin took a side. He said, we are going to go after ISIS. We're going to side with the Syrians. Now, granted, it's one of their customers. I get that. But he took a side. A lot of people would say Obama hasn't taken a side. Can't figure out what side we're on.
Well, that's why he has the advantage when he's doing interviews, and he has the advantage over Obama because he's clear on what he wants to do in the world. He always knows what he wants. He wants to be, he wants to be a power player, and he wants to make deals with Syria, and, he wants to be a thorn in the side of America. What do we want from Russia? We don't even know. So, of course, he has the advantage over Obama.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. But leadership, you can see the two different styles, as we point out.
He took the gold home, and now he's going to take the oil. Watch.
We found one. Anyway, we'll move on to this one, this topic. Also, big news on Capitol Hill. House Speaker John Boehner is he's out, announcing Friday he'll be leaving Congress next month. Now, yesterday on Face the Nation, he said he's proud of his record and took a shot at some of his party's hardliners.
our founders didn't want some parliamentary system where if you won the majority, you got to do whatever you wanted. They wanted this long, slow process. And so change comes slowly, and obviously too slowly for some. You know, the Bible says, beware of false prophets. And there are people out there, you know, spreading noise about how much can get done.
All right, got to go back to you again here,
Okay.
Dana. Your thoughts on, first of all, John Boehner announcing on Friday very quickly, I'm done, and then the way he portrays the reason for leaving.
So I went to, my first job in Washington, D.C. was on Capitol Hill in 1995 in the fall there. John Boehner was one of the first members that I met. I made friends with all of his staff in Boehner world. My niece later on worked in the cloakroom for him. I've stayed in touch with him. I then got to watch him as the Speaker and the Majority Leader rebuff 17 times Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid's attempts to defund the troops in the war in those last 2 years when they had the majority. And I am an unabashed fan, and I have a lot of admiration for John Boehner and what he's done over the course of his career as a public servant. I think that you can have those feelings and also believe that, okay, maybe it's time for some change. What he was saying there about false prophets, I think, it's just that math is math. And if somebody can show me another way to do math, and if there's a new era that's coming in that's going to do math better and differently, then knock yourselves out.
And you're pointing out the group of the GOP representatives that won't vote with him no matter what. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, they think that there's a better way. They think that he could have done better.
Well,
now,
you're talking about the group. You're talking about the Tea Party,
you call them hardliners,
or the hardliners, or the people who feel
and maybe they
have
a better way.
Dysfunction.
Well, okay, but here's
confrontation
the other part.
and not governing.
Those who advocate standing up for what they were elected for. Remember, they were put into those seats because they said they were going to vote against certain things, no matter what. And I would think that's what they're doing.
John Boehner left because the Republican Party is dysfunctional. The Republican Party has shattered itself. It is the real civil war in this country is within the GOP. He could get nothing done as Speaker. Dana kindly says it's about arithmetic. The fact of the matter is that the Republicans, the hardliners in the House of Representatives can vote to do anything they want, and it will not become law because there are enough Democrats to stop it. And then there's the Senate, and then there's the President.
But also,
they can do absolutely nothing.
Let's not lose sight of the fact.
They want to shut down the government.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that that's what they said they would do. They would fight.
Shut down the government?
They would not vote for things that they didn't think that were prudently
Why don't we vote
acceptable.
to defund Obamacare for the 97th
But see,
time?
here's part of the problem, Kimberly. Let me throw this to you. Here's part of the problem. John Boehner could have brought that vote to us. We're all talking about the Planned Parenthood funding the government, continuing resolution that he wanted to that the hardliners wanted to have the Planned Parenthood funding pulled out of that bill, and he knew he couldn't get the vote, so he didn't put it on the House floor, and that is perceived as weak.
Okay, so he should have done it anyway, even though he knows he didn't have the votes, right?
Well, yes.
So take the 3-point shot, and just no matter what.
Well, are you suggesting that
it
was
a 3-point shot? It's an impossible shot.
Well, the point
it's
is,
a 3-point shot when you need 4 points.
That's the most you can get, though, in one shot.
Or you could get,
but it wasn't enough.
Here's an alternative, and Dana, correct me if I'm wrong. You could have gotten a clean resolution through. You could have kept the government open. You could have pulled the funding of Planned Parenthood out and let President Obama veto that bill, and then it's on him.
Okay, that's one strategy point, but the point is the problems are bigger than, Boehner. Everybody's going to blame Boehner for everything. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see if McCarthy gets in there. Let's see what's going to happen then.
Danny, you sent me an interesting article in the email this morning that was comparing the Republicans in Congress to the French Revolution, and they said, whose head is next, right? But the thing that wasn't mentioned in that article was President Obama. The reason you have what you call extremists on the right is that they look at what President Obama is doing. He is scorched earth. He does not believe in compromise at all. So the other side says if Obama is not going to compromise, even though he ran as a uniter, he never was. And they said, so we don't agree with people trying to compromise with someone who is unwilling.
All right, we got to move on to this one. On to Hillary Clinton.
So you shut down the government.
No, you let President Obama shut down the government, Geraldo. That's the way you do it.
That didn't work last time.
The Democratic presidential hopeful faced more questions about her private email scandal on Meet the Press this weekend and dismissed it as another conspiracy theory by her critics.
During the 90s, I was subjected to the same kind of barrage, and it seemed to be at the time endless. And then when I ran for the Senate, people said, hey, we are more concerned about what you're going to do for us. And I trust the voters to make that decision this time around, too.
And the Hillary machine is trying to get the media to change the subject. Look at this. Senior spokeswoman Karen Finney tweeted, "The questions on Meet the Press have been asked and answered. Time to move on." The campaign and a pro-Clinton super PAC seem to have coordinated their talking points. Brad Woodhouse of Correct the Record tweeted the same exact thing. Exactly. Word for word. That is a potential violation of federal law, federal election law. So the media has their marching orders from the Clinton camp. Are they going to get in line? KG, is it over?
Every time I think it's over, it's like the 7th inning stretch where we've got a couple more innings to go. I mean, anything is possible, but this should make it over. This should be enough and should be sufficient. You don't think so?
I don't think it's over. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, I think she did a great interview on Meet the Press. She did a fantastic. She had the right demeanor. She wasn't condescending. She wasn't making jokes about her emails. She was answering questions. But, Geraldo, we have probably 60 or 70% of the emails that we can still read. We haven't seen them yet.
I bet you a month ago that this was going to be a big nothing, this email scandal. It is a big nothing a month later. It's going to be a big nothing a month from now. Benghazi is already the longest hearing in the history of the United States Congress. It is just, again, another distraction by the extremists on the GOP. Why don't they concentrate?
No,
they blew
no.
Obama and Clinton blew the Middle East.
The reason why the hearing's taken so long is because they're withholding evidence.
The reason we have Libya is because of the Obama administration. The reason we have Syria is the Obama administration. Why can't we concentrate on substance rather than this little nothing scandal?
The emails that are coming,
scandalette.
The emails that are being released right now are starting to, the period going forward, are starting to encompass the Benghazi, the 4 dead Americans at Benghazi.
Give me one thing it's going to say. I killed the 4 Americans myself. What's it going to say?
Do you know what it's not going to say?
What it's going to say is that whatever they were talking about, they talked about in an ineffective way, but that's the essence is, what is the Middle East now?
I don't.
What was the Middle East 7 years ago? Is it better now than it was 7 years ago? If not, blame them.
Okay, Dana, this is a woman who wants to be president of the United States, and I would like to see what she had to say then.
So, I think besides just even the substance, it's the fact that today the Washington Post fact checker comes out with Hillary getting 3 Pinocchios because she can't even keep her timeline straight. One of the rules of crisis communications, know your timeline, know it better than anybody else. It can't change. It changes every other day. One of the things that's just happened is she had said, I only used an email address from March of 2008 or 9 on. Well, then turns out that in one of these emails, there's an exchange between her and General David Petraeus, then the director of the CIA. So she obviously was using that same server before. So the timeline changes. It goes to the questions of judgment. I also think that this idea that her staffer could work as a government employee at getting a sweetheart deal to give separate employment through Teneo, which is connected to her husband's firm and the Clinton Global Initiative. That is so dirty.
And they have shared emails as well. Quick thought on this one before we move on.
Geraldo, did you coin a term, scandalette?
Scandalette.
That is very. That might be sexist, Geraldo. A scandalette.
I liked it though.
You know who said
Look, I think the Clinton camp is obviously they're trying to channel Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are not the droids you're looking for. Move along.
All right. After interviewing Hillary Clinton, Chuck Todd picked a fight with Carly Fiorina for targeting Planned Parenthood, but she stood her ground and blasted him for not asking Hillary the same question.
At the debate, the most recent debate, you described the following scene, claiming it was on a tape. A fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking. You saw that moment on the tape.
Yes, and I would challenge Planned Parenthood.
Well, the footage you described, at best, is a reenactment.
Chuck, do you think this is not happening? Does Hillary Clinton think this is not happening? So sad that you missed the opportunity to ask Mrs. Clinton why she said late-term abortions were only performed for medical purposes. That is patently false.
Okay, quick around. Go ahead, Geraldo.
Well, I said at this table that I thought that was Carly Fiorina's finest moment, her description of the fetus, with the brains intact and the heart beating and all the rest of it. She answered to Chuck Todd's question, does the video exist? She said, or have you seen the video? She said, yes. Now it seems to me that's a yes-no. She said, yes, she saw the video. If the video does not exist, I think it's problematic.
It doesn't exist. But here's the problem, and I've seen every single one of these videos.
Did you see that scene?
Yes, but I didn't see it in a Planned Parenthood video. I saw the scene, but these videos were being released at the same time, and that may have been part of the confusion. But they'll be able to clean that up. Quick thought, KG?
Yeah, I thought that that was a powerful moment for her. She shows that she's very adept at skilled, handling conversations like that and turning it around and turning it into an advantage for her. I think it was a fair question, and she was unafraid to pose it to the journalist because he should have asked Hillary Clinton about that if he's doing his job.
Tommy?
Why don't they show the tapes? We've all seen the things. We look at them on our own time. And whenever they're talking to them on these shows, they say, what about the tape? It was described this way. What about this? And it's just show it. Everyone can see it, and then they can make up their mind. If they all, if people see the tape she's talking about, which I have and you have, I mean, it's a pretty bad tape.
Yeah, it's bad. Dana?
Well, the only reason that the mainstream media has been covering the Planned Parenthood videos is because of this controversy, because they've been trying to go after Carly Fiorina about it, which is actually forcing people to recognize that the videos do exist and you can watch them.
But where did you see it? I'm curious.
There are groups that were releasing videos, and I saw that video, and I'm telling you, I saw it, and it wasn't the Planned Parenthood.
And it wasn't a reenactment.
Well, I think what she was describing was she saw the video where the woman was describing what she was seeing, and
and she created a proof of life moment essentially by telling people, "Hey, this is out there. This is what exists." Talking about it to a huge audience, national audience, paying attention to the issues, and it put it right on the forefront.
I got to be honest with you. Have you seen the Planned Parenthood videos?
I've seen some of the videos. I haven't seen that scene.
I don't think that it would be any less disgusting than the one she describes.
You can't specifically describe something if you haven't really seen it.
I don't disagree.
The problem is all these people say, we don't want to hear about that. But her point is, do you think it's not happening? It's actually happening, whether you want to hear about it or not.
And she says it speaks to the character of this country if you sit back and allow that to continue.
What if the video does not exist? What if the video does not exist?
It does. I've seen it.
Well, then we should show it. We should show it.
Go up to Bolling's office and look at it.
We should ever show that video.
All right,
ahead.
Isn't the point?
You can't show that
It's
video.
that
We got to
bad.
go. Ahead.